Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Seventh Rule with your stars, Aron Eisenberg and Cirroc Lofton. My name is Husk. That's Cirroc Lofton. He is joining us via cellular device today, but he'll be back next episode in full video form.
Basically, he didn't shave, and he was feeling a little insecure.
I felt like I would disrespect the show, Aron.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had nothing new to wear. I'm looking for something new to wear.
Nice. So today we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about a little bit about the passing of Mr. Peter Allan Fields, who coincidentally also wrote the episode Dax, which is the one that we are reviewing today. So let's just get right into it. What do you say, guys?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Are we rolling? Are we rolling?
Kind of.
You're stuck. You're sandwiched between Sisko and Dax.
They're fighting over me, actually.
They're fighting over you. Basically, Dax is looking at you and going, "Oh man," and Sisko's like, "No, what are you doing?"
She's actually, for those of you that are listening in, including Cirroc, she's actually looking on my shoulder, going like, should I tell him there's a piece of lint? I mean, I can't reach it and grab it, but I can't just like stare at it forever. Sisko's like, you better not be looking at him. That kind of thing.
Is that how he sounds?
In this episode.
Oh, in this episode.
But then later on, he's like this. You better not be looking at him, man.
So yes.
Rest in peace to Mr. Peter Allan Fields.
Yes, absolutely. Peter Allan Fields, one of the writers of our show, passed away this last week. I found out because I saw Ira retweet it or tweet his condolences and his sadness in his passing. I had no idea that he was sick. If he was sick, because I don't know how or why he passed away. I wasn't close to Peter. I don't know if I didn't have a personal relationship with him, neither for no reason other than sometimes people, work-wise, we just don't cross paths in that sense. But you were going to mention some things that he did, Ryan, some episodes,
Absolutely.
Some key episodes.
Let's go over a few things about this young man, maybe not that young, Peter Allan Fields. It always gives us a chance to kind of look over somebody's life and body of work and career when they pass, and to really appreciate and celebrate them and really fully pick up the scope of what they did. This gentleman wasn't just a Star Trek writer. He started writing in the 60s for a show called The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which I've heard of.
Oh,
well-known show, yeah.
They just did a movie of that either last year or the year before.
Yeah, yep.
He also, very notably, mind you, wrote for a show called The $6 Million Man that we've all heard of.
I used to watch that as a kid.
Really?
I had one of the dolls, the Bionic Man dolls that you could look through his head to look through his bionic eye. It seemed to obscure my vision, not make it better. So I felt a little scammed by that doll, just for the record.
What about you,
I liked
Cirroc?
my Evil Knievel one better.
Cirroc, did you ever say, we can rebuild him?
No, I never said that.
Did you ever watch The $6 Billion Man?
No,
Million.
that was a little bit. That was a little bit before me. I mean, I've seen clips of it and things like that, but it was before my time.
That's good enough.
Come on,
I don't know if I'd ever seen it either, but I'm definitely aware of it.
I was a big fan of as a little kid, and of course, I had a big crush on Lindsay Wagner, who was the
Bionic Woman.
The Bionic Woman. She had the strong legs, so she could run, and I think every kid had a crush on her. And I love that show. And actually,
there was a sound effect that I remember though that was correlated with that.
Yes.
That when they started to get into the mode of doing something, extraordinary, it was like the echoing
That's the
sound thing.
Yeah, and after Paper Moon, if you listen closely, whenever I come on screen, you hear that sound. Just faintly. It's very.
I always heard that sound when you walked onto the set, Aron.
Yeah.
I thought. It could have been the guy behind you playing an instrument, but it was interesting that you brought that.
Well, yeah,
flavor.
I had to pay him to show up and make that sound.
And make that sound. Yeah.
It was expensive.
So here's another thing that this young man did, Mr. Peter Allen Fields. He wrote one episode of Knight Rider. I don't know if you guys know Knight Rider.
I did watch Knight Rider.
Pretty rad.
Yeah.
Michael Knight.
What key episodes of DS9 other than the one we're talking about today, which is Dax? He co-wrote.
We're getting to that.
I'm sorry, Ryan. I'm rushing you.
I know. I'm not rushing. Jake and the Fat Man. That's another show I've heard of. You guys probably heard of all these shows. But I'm skipping over. Wait.
We got to do Jake and the Orange Man. That would be our next show.
Oh my God, you guys are Jake and the Orange Man.
Jake and the Orange Man.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
I'm on today. I'm ready today. Go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
He's ready.
All right. Then you're going to love this part. He also wrote 3 episodes for a little show called Star Trek The Next Generation. One of which, actually the first one that he wrote of the 3 was The Inner Light. Now, The Inner Light is, many people consider this to be the best Next Generation episode ever written.
Really?
Whoa.
Yes. And some people say it's the best Star Trek episode ever written. It's always in that discussion, and it wins very often. Whenever there's a discussion of the best episode or the best Next Generation episode, The Inner Light tends to win.
What if we watched that did a little detour and watched that show? Could we do that, or do we have to have seen everything before?
No, that's what's great about this one, and Next Generation in general was very episodic, but The Inner Light is its own story. So this is a good episode for if you're trying to start out a new fan, and they're like, I'll check out Star Trek, but I want to just watch a standalone episode that I don't need to know much. I tend to start people on Cause and Effect, which is a Next Generation episode that's very simple and easy to understand, but it's really interesting. But The Inner Light's a very good one for that too. You guys would love it.
We should do that. We should do a little offshoot and do an episode of like TNG. And maybe even Voyager. Maybe there's one for Voyager we could do.
Oh, come on now. This is ridiculous. Voyager 2?
Well, we could do initiations.
Shots fired. He also wrote A Cost of Living and Half a Life for the Next Generation. Now moving on, he also wrote a couple episodes of Xena Warrior Princess.
Wow.
Yeah, this guy's all over fandom for us. Now, lastly, his last writing credits were 10 episodes on your show, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, starting with this one, Dax. Now, he has multiple story by and teleplay by, and for those of you that don't know the difference, story by is when somebody first comes up with the story, whether they're somebody that just shows up for the open door policy and pitches them an idea and says, here's a story. And teleplay is the person that actually writes the script out. So if you have a story by episode, that means it's your story. If you have a teleplay by, that means you wrote the shooting script. Now, sometimes you'll see something that says written by. Written by means that they did the story and wrote the episode. So there's the difference there.
Oh, okay.
So he has a multitude of all those things, different levels. Some he pitched, some he did the script, some he did both. But anyway, he did story by and teleplay by. Probably the reason they do both instead of written by is because he co-wrote the teleplay. He came up with the story himself, but he co-wrote the script with someone else. So he doesn't get sole written by credit there. He also wrote Progress in the first season.
Hey, stem bolts.
Oh, is that one?
Stem bolts. He is responsible for I know who can tell us what self.
No way.
Unbelievable.
Are you serious?
This guy's the man.
Peter. Changed my life, Peter. You changed my life.
He did. He named our group.
The self-sealing stem bolts.
The No J Consortium.
Yep, that's right.
Custodian. Well, yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Well,
Okay.
he also wrote a duet.
Ooh, that's one of the big famous Star Trek DS9 episodes, right?
I don't remember that one.
Oh, I thought a lot of people really like duet. I've seen that often in like posts and what have you.
I guess I remember. I don't remember which episode that is. I'm sure if I saw it, I would remember it.
Hold on, Melissa's yelling at me.
I don't know what the title.
Melissa yelled, "It's a very good episode."
Ooh, then we're looking forward to it.
Yeah.
He also wrote The Circle and Necessary Evil.
Ah, that's is that a Ferengi episode? Can't remember.
Oh, we could check.
I remember all these titles though. That's funny.
Yeah.
Me too. I recognize the titles.
I remember not working on those episodes, so yeah.
Necessary Evil, because it's Odo relives some terrible and tragic memories of a past investigation when he and the constable on Cardassian-occupied Deep Space Nine, then named Terok Nor, when he was the constable. This is a good one. I do remember this one. This is a really interesting one because what it is they go back in time, kind of like in flashbacks, or if I remember correctly. But what he's talking about is they're talking about the things that happened before Terok Nor became Deep Space Nine. So we're kind of seeing like some backstory on the station and what the station was like and the major players back then with Gul Dukat and Odo working for them and stuff. It's a really interesting one. It's
interesting that I didn't know Peter Allen Fields, that I never really met him. It's too bad, he wasn't a staff writer, right? He wasn't on our lot all the time, right? It's not like, meaning I always had this impression that there were a group of writers, and I felt that I kind of did know them to some degree, like Robert, like Ron Moore, like Hans, like Renee and Ira, and as well as the two that came up later, Bradley and they're a pair, and they worked together later in our show.
Brandon Braga?
No. Bradley and no, it's not Brandon. Because he did he even work on our show? Did he just come in for Voyager? I don't.
Not sure. I thought he maybe did something.
There's also Michael Piller, DC Fontana, maybe.
No, it was somebody. Renee Echeverria.
Yeah, I remember. Oh, Bradley Thompson. That's it. Bradley Thompson and David Weddle. They came in later, but I remember meeting them on the set. I remember meeting them. Everyone that I've mentioned, I remember meeting and seeing. Maybe more often than I should have, but maybe because they were making sure I wasn't screwing up. So maybe that's why I saw them so often. They always had to come down just to overwatch and babysit.
Yeah, that was the note that they got from Ira.
That's the note all the actors got. Hey, don't be shocked when you see these writers come down. We know Aaron's working today. We're bringing him down just to make sure he's doing okay. And BC would say, but he's only in one scene. It's one scene, and we need to make sure it's okay because he's a handful, that guy.
It's more than 2 lines.
Let's. There's still a few more I want to look at for this. This is great. I love that you guys remember most of these because a lot of times I don't identify the episode title with which episode it is, but it's really cool that you guys remember these. Another one was Blood Oath.
I don't, but I'm guessing
that's a Klingon episode.
That's what I'm guessing too.
It's not about Bashir. It's not about Bashir.
The log line is 3 legendary Klingons come to Deep Space Nine to see if Jadzia will participate in a blood oath that they made.
That's the episode that Avery and Colum had to dress up in a Klingon outfit.
No, that's not that.
I don't think so. That's later.
That's like Dominion War stuff.
What did what was got? Me hands.
Very good accent. Very good accent.
I was practicing that this morning, and I was waiting for a moment to throw it in.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
I love you, man. I'm there for you.
Oh boy. He also wrote Crossover, and the log line for this one is Kira and Bashir find themselves in an alternate universe.
What's the difference between alternate and mirror?
Well, the mirror universe is an alternate universe.
Aha! So we basically went to the mirror universe more than once.
Oh, yeah.
So I might still be alive in the alternate universe, even though I died in the mirror universe.
That's right.
All right. I just wanted to be clear about that.
Yeah, you're still alive somewhere, Aaron. Don't worry. You'll always be alive somewhere in one of these universes.
Thank you.
And then mirror universe Nog can come into the regular universe and then just take over. So you're still around.
As long as you got that time crystal, buddy.
Dude,
hold on to that time crystal.
It's under my underwear in my drawer right now.
Don't lose that thing. That's the get out of jail free card.
I'm keeping it nice and safe. Nice and safe.
So this young man, Peter, he apparently took 3 years off for one reason or another. Maybe
just for the record, he was over 80 years old.
I don't know why I keep calling him a young man, but yeah, but you're right that I don't think he was part of like the core 5 or 6 or 7, because he had 10 episodes out of 100 and whatever.
Yeah.
So he was in and out. He was out for 3 years between 94 and 97.
Oh, I wonder why. I wonder if it's something like Mark too, where they wanted to bring him in, but maybe he was focused on something else, but was offering episodes and doing, I would assume, like contractor work. Say, hey, I'll do this one.
Yeah, you know what it might be? It might be that since he doesn't have anything for 95 and 96, but in 95 he did Legend and he did Xena, so he was still working. He just kind of like hopped over to the shiny new penny, maybe.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. Well, that was probably near his retirement age, around 65, 70 at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, good point.
Sounds like he only wrote one Nog and Jake episode and said, I'm done. Basically, the 19 takes scared him away. He probably said, I'm never writing for those two again. Ever.
No, we retired this guy.
But check out this next episode he wrote in 97. It's called For the Uniform, and it's when the traitorous Eddington returns. Sisko will go to any lengths to capture him.
The Maquis. Now, the question I have, Ryan, is do you think that if somehow when Eddington was on the DS9 station, that somehow the station was transported far away to a different quadrant, and now they had to find a way to get back to Bajor? Do you think he would have made Eddington his first officer?
I'm sorry, I'm lost.
You don't get the connection. I was so proud of what I was connecting it to. So I have a huge issue with Voyager solving the Federation Maquis problem on the first episode. You put these adversarial together, and the way you described how Sisko would go to no ends to get him, right? I'm thinking to myself, there's no way he would have, if he was in Janeway's shoes, there's no way he would have put Eddington, if Eddington was in Chakotay's shoes, as his first officer.
Correct. Once he was part of the Maquis, and just like if there was some battle with the Cardassians and he was left with the Cardassian ship, he would make Gul Dukat his first officer.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's a conversation for another day, because I had a wonderful. When I was at Treklanta, I was hanging out with this wonderful woman and her husband, Grace McLaren, and she's part of one of the Facebook groups, and we had a good long talk about that because she loves Voyager. She's a huge Voyager fan, and I love that. I love that. There's different shows for different people. That you can love whatever it is that you really enjoy. And I like talking about it and debating it. So we were debating.
As long as DS9 is number one.
What I mean? I did say that. Yes, you're right, Cirroc. And as long as Jake Sisko is her favorite character on DS9.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're
okay.
ready to go. Yeah.
As long as that's clear.
Aaron, speaking of some fans of the show, your buddy Julie Grisham was asking if you knew or remembered anything about your boots when you were in your cadet uniform, your Starfleet cadet uniform. Because
I just know that nobody could fill my boots.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, was the zipper long or small or on the side? Do you remember anything about them?
I don't know. I've never had anybody ask me about if the zipper was long or small or very large. It's a very uncomfortable question, Ryan.
But I will say something, though. I will add something to that. We wore stirrups on our boots.
Yes, we did.
And for people that don't know what stirrups are, they're like straps that go underneath your boots so that your pants flows straight. Yeah.
So I didn't see.
They still did that for the JJ movies too. When I was wearing the uniforms, they still had the stirrups in the JJ movies.
Yeah.
That's probably
No, so the question is about my zipper.
Like the zippers on the boots. I mean, do you remember anything about the boots to help her finish her cosplay?
I don't. I remember putting them on.
I remember about.
And I remember taking them off at the end of the day.
Boots zipped up. The boots zipped up on the side. They were green. They were green boots that zipped up on the side.
Well, these are mine or yours?
Your boots, Aaron.
You remember more about my boots than I remember about my boots.
Yes, because I pay attention.
That's funny. You would think that Aaron would have better knowledge of Cirroc's boots, but like Cirroc was just, I guess he was already looking down. He might as well just keep looking.
You know, I remember him having the longest legs in the world, Cirroc. I'm like, man, those legs are long. I'm one leg. I'm basically one leg. That's what I used to think all the time. And the leg kept growing. That's what was even scarier. The leg kept growing.
So we got a couple minutes left. I just want to go over
That's what happens at 50. You keep growing.
Now, we've got 2 more episodes that I haven't mentioned yet that Peter Allan did. And one of them you may remember from the title, because it's another one of the episodes that people put in the discussion, best episode ever. It is one called In the Pale Moonlight.
Ooh, Peter wrote that one. Wow.
That was
a ballsy episode, right?
Yeah, he has memorable episodes, at least on our show. A few of them that are like, just by the title alone,
huge,
have been recognized as pretty good episodes.
Now, that one, he has a story by credit, which means it was his idea. It was his story. He's the one that came up with it.
I wonder whose idea, like, I wonder what in the writer's room, and we got to get some of the writers on our show. Yes. I hope I hope they would come on because I would love to find out if then the teleplay, the script was co-written. At what point did they, where did the decision come for Sisko to make the decision where he did? They also directed it very interestingly, right? Where Sisko talks to camera, if I remember correctly, right? Which is very different, or at least in my feeling of the show, very different than I think what we're used to. And then to do what he did, and then say, I can live with that and make that bold choice at the ends justify the means. Now, I wonder if that was in the original idea of the story or if that was something that developed in the writer's conversation, similar to probably what they went through that we watched in the documentary when they kind of go through ideas and kind of plan out, that was planning out a whole season, but planning out an episode. I'm really curious to know how that came about. And if it was planned all along or if it was organic in the moment, Now,
the last one he wrote, we've only got 1 minute left real quick. The Dogs of War. This is another Dominion War one. This one is really great.
Love that title.
The log line is Odo begins recovery from the deadly disease, which Dr. Bashir tells him had been engineered by Section 31 in order to wipe out the Founder's entire race. And a resistance mission, this is a long one. A resistance mission goes bad for Kira and Garrick. Okay, we move on. Grand Negative.
Well, let me just say really quickly, when I was doing the artwork that I did of the Avery that I have on the background of most of my video podcasts, that piece of art that I did, I used scripts as part of the kind of collaboration on the medium. And out of the scripts that I chose, because I actually wanted to say something, say something encoded in the scripts. So I used this different scripts throughout the shows, and I had to look through all 7 seasons of the show.
Interesting.
And what I did was,
tell us more about that on the other side. We're gonna flip over to the other side right now, but hang on to that thought.
Okay.
We'll be right back to the 7th rule. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 7th rule with your stars, Aron Eisenberg Cirroc Lofton. My name is Ryan T. Husk. We do have a couple quick things that we want to get right back to. And Cirroc, the floor is yours, you were saying?
Oh, I was saying that I made this piece of artwork that in tribute, an homage to Avery and being the first American captain on the shows, on all of the series.
Interesting.
And that's why he's kind of behind the background of the United States flag, an old version of the United States flag, when there were 13 colonies. But so the piece of artwork is actually an homage to Sisko being the first American captain, but it's also encoded with a message that you can't see, but I put it there anyways because I know it's there. And the message that is encoded was basically taken out of a bunch of script episodes. So I took a bunch of episodes, took all the titles of the script, and basically made a sentence out of the titles. And the sentence is, the defiant duet progress far beyond the stars, defiant for the cause. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's
right. And I have to make sure the first part is what I say it is. But I use duet and progress. And those are the 2 episodes, right?
Yeah.
He did.
Those are 2 of Peter Allen Fields'
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So
wow.
2 of Peter Allen Fields' episodes are in my piece of artwork and encrypted in the sentence that I wanted to talk about me and Avery's relationships, the duet, progressing far beyond the stars.
That's really cool. Cirroc the Patriot.
Yeah, well, it's not just the Patriot. I mean, I did the one with Patrick Stewart. I did the one with Patrick Stewart with the British flag as the backdrop.
We've got to see these. You've got to dig these out wherever they are so we can see them on the show sometime. This is great.
Or we could use my time crystal and go back and get them.
Oh, your time crystal. No, I did the first one I did was of Avery, and I did that for Vegas in 2012, which I presented to him, and he signed on stage. The other one I brought to London for the 5 captains big convention they had in London, and I presented the Patrick Stewart one to Patrick Stewart and had him sign that one as well.
That's Destination Trek, right? Shout out to them.
Shout out.
Shout out to Patrick Stewart, who was really gracious in signing the piece. But I also encrypted a few things in his artwork as well, mainly references to the Borg and things of that nature.
Cool.
But yeah, I just wanted to bring up the fact that out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 scripts that I did use, 2 of them are Peter Allen Fields'
cool.
titles.
And that kind of brings us into what Aron was talking about over the break. And Aron, I'll let you say it more eloquently than I do, but basically that we always tend to, as a society, appreciate people once they're gone. As soon as a musician dies, they go to #1 on iTunes. As soon as an actor or writer dies, their IMDb page shoots up. And we need to do a better job of kind of appreciating the people while they're here, right?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I really didn't know Peter Allen Fields, and we're looking at all his episodes, and I mean, one of them was Progress, which has given me a story to tell at conventions that people love to hear for years and years. The whole self-sealing stem bolt debacle. I don't know if I said that word right, but that fiasco where I struggled to say that. And now, people always make jokes about self-sealing stumbles. Les Landau, I think he got fired after that episode, but no, he didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. He was the director. But yeah, and I was saying we should bring other writers from our show on and get to know them a little bit and learn about what they did and why they did what they did and what episodes that they worked on and their inspirations for that. Before one of them pass away again and we go, oh, wow, we didn't realize so-and-so did this and this and this. And then we kind of, I feel a little bit.
I think that's almost impossible to connect all of the dots because, you remember the last guest we had last week who wrote Far Beyond the Stars.
Mark Secret, yeah.
How many different, backstories are there that connect certain dots that it's almost impossible to, understand how all these things, how does Ira and Martin and all of these people's lives cross paths and where did they come from and, what challenges did they face growing up writing and who did they write for? You see a lot of Rod Serling, a lot of things leading back to Rod Serling, for example, in the Twilight Zone and, Alfred Hitchcock and all of these different writers and guys that were geniuses. How do their lives tie in together? How do they know each other? There's so many intricate details that everybody who, brings something to the table, from Michael Westmore to, Terry Erdeman, or Okuda. Everybody has so much. Or
Jerry.
BC or the Okudas or just so many. Michael Piller. When I found out that Michael Piller really this was his baby, this was the brainchild, this is out of his brain, when you find out that those kinds of things, it's like, I really wish I knew how much he had to do with it because I could thank him even more for, for the kinds of risks he took and for giving me an opportunity.
Right.
These are all great points. This is, that's great that you guys remember most of these episodes. It's great that you can identify, the importance of them and the writers that wrote them initially. Also, Aaron, by the way, we will still be getting to Dax in just a minute, but before we do, there's still one more thing I want to touch on. Aaron, you've got a rather cool piece of art right behind you.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Unfortunately, I can't turn my chair so you can see the artist, so I'm going to give her a little shout out. I saw this the other day, and I just absolutely loved it. I found this artist on Twitter, and I've shared it a few times on our social media. It's at Space Liz Art. So at SPACELIZART. And the one we had before that, the first half of our show, is an artist that we're working with to create artwork for our show, JJ Lendl, LLENDL. There's her Twitter. Oh no, that's her Instagram account. So go ahead and follow her. She's got a lot of great artwork on there, and hopefully we can get some more of her work on our show. And within our social media, because I think she does a fantastic job. So I did.
I'm looking at her stuff right now, and I see some really cool stuff that she's done.
Do you see the Jake and Nog one?
I don't see the Jake and Nog one. I just see a series of Jake ones.
Okay. Well, now I think she has like 3 of those compared to the 20 Nog ones, but it's nice that you found those. Here, I'm gonna send it to you as well on your cell phone right now. There you go. So now you have it there. So she does a fantastic job. So I want to thank you for bringing that up. I want to give her a little shout out. I wish I could turn my chair.
Who was the other? You mentioned the other guy who was doing the artwork as well.
JJ Lendl.
JJ Lendl. Okay.
But there's going to be a lot more to that story very soon, guys, because for all of you at home, hang on to your hats because he is making some really cool stuff for us, or beanies. And we're going to be including a lot of that stuff. Also, we've been getting questions about shirts and merchandise and things like that. We promise you that's coming extremely soon. in the next few days, I think we'll start making that kind of stuff and artwork available.
This is JJ's work right behind us, right behind me. You can find that on our Instagram account, our Twitter account. I've shared a preview of it. It's not the finished piece. So Ryan might be very upset that I shared that a little bit, but I'm so excited about it. So anyway.
Aaron only says that because he knows that I've just got a legendary temper.
Legendary.
I'm always at like a 9, and anything happens, I'm at a 10.
Yeah, and I do a very good job of getting him to 10.
You do a good job of getting everybody out of 10.
Anyway, Dax. Let's talk about Dax. We haven't talked about this episode, and I really enjoyed it. I actually liked it a lot, and I thought it asked some good questions. I will say, though, as I'm starting to watch our show, I do understand, while I don't agree, I do understand why people struggled with our show at the beginning, from the things they would say in the 90s about it's not Trek. And I think because it doesn't have an adventurous feel. Meaning, I think when you watch the original series and you watch Next Generation, which I haven't yet, so I can really only relate to the original series, because it's literally on a ship, it has a feeling of traveling, of like if we went on a hike and what's around the corner, so to speak, where environments change. Even though much happens on the ship and on the bridge, environments feel like they're changing. But on DS9, environments don't feel like they're changing right away. And while they're great stories and fantastic character development, I get that is a hard change for people to switch from that adventurous traveling motif to we're here now on the station and stories are coming in. That's what I'm thinking, at least. Now, I love it. I think our show's great. And one of the notes I really took today was how good of a job each of the actors are doing within their characters and the idiosyncratic behaviors of their characters to develop each and every one of them. No one seems generic, if you will. Everyone seems unique. And, Odo, I feel like he is a unique character amongst his race, amongst his species, I think. I would be like, wow, I'd like to see what other founders would be like. I think Renee, I'll be honest, I'm becoming an Odo fan because he's such a wonderful actor. He's so good. And Armin, and even, who I really loved in this episode? I love Sid. I love Bashir. As one person made a note on one of our social accounts, he's so creepy, because at the beginning, like, I have a way we could spend some time tonight. Let's tone it down a little bit. But then later when he's in court and you start to see the intelligence behind his character, it's there. And he was a little bit, a little head to head with the, I can't remember that character's name, but the one who wanted to extradite. Oh wait, did I say that right?
You're right. You got it.
I say things wrong all the time. Dax, and he had that, that moment, and I'm like, see, those little things aren't exposition. They're building character within the scenes, and within the relationships, and that's what I'm loving about our show, and especially Avery Brooks. I'm just a huge Sisko fan. I think he's great.
Cirroc, I want to hear what you have to say about that. But real quick, Aaron, you made a point that I kind of just wanted to jump on that I don't think we've discussed yet on
Jump on it, man. Jump on it.
I'm raring like Bashir to jump on this one.
Well, we only have so much time.
I don't need, never mind. So when you said, I know, when you said that Odo was kind of like different for his race or for his character, that's actually a very common Star Trek trope, is this alien, except he's like this, like Odo, except he's like this. Nog, the Ferengi, except he likes the Federation, and he's a Ferengi, but he's brave, or he's not that as interested in finance. Or Worf, but he's not merry and doesn't like to drink and be jolly. And sometimes they say, why aren't you like most Klingons? He says, that is not Klingon, or whatever. And they say, well, Klingons aren't like that. Klingons like to drink and party and whatever. So that's kind of the trope that Star Trek likes to do, is they like to get these outside aliens, but make them an outsider within their own race, which makes them kind of fit in a little bit differently, because they almost, they're kind of a fish out of water within their own race kind of thing. It's that.
And the thing that when I watch shows a lot, and maybe this is because as an actor who's been in makeup, and I hate watching somebody in makeup and all it looks like is somebody in makeup. Drives me bananas. And it's like, you've got to find a way to define the character somehow. So that species has, you know, something about it, an idiosyncratic behavior and a way they walk, a way they move, a way they communicate, talk. And that's why I love watching Renee, because I don't see a human underneath that makeup. I see a changeling. I see Odo. And that to me is all the credit to Renee. And same with Armin, you know,
Armin and Max did so well. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, because I know everybody, I see Dax, I see Bashir, you know, I see their characters, and it just gives me a lot of pride in our cast, and what we and watching them, what we've all created, you know.
What do you think, Cirroc?
Well, I think there's a few things there. One of the things that I can say that I will kind of agree with Aron on is about why people may not have liked our show in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because it's like there's two, let's say, buckets in which you can put things in.
Odo is one of the buckets.
one is Odo's and the other is everything else. No, I look at it like this. You have the action, which I feel like I'm getting on Discovery, a lot of action, right? And so the pace on action is faster. There's more visually to look at. There's ships flying. There's things getting destroyed. There's a time crunch, and there's action, right? And then you have storytelling, which is like character development and bringing up ideas that challenge the viewer to think of things in different ways, or to bring up topics to discuss. So I look at it as a balance of both is basically what you're trying to have in a perfect show, right? You want just enough action and just enough character story development where I'm like, wow, it leaves me to think about things when I walk away. I think that Deep Space Nine is putting, in this early beginning of its infancy, a lot of emphasis on the story development and less so much on just, action. And that's why
characters.
And so it could, be perceived as slow or, hard to get into because somebody with a shorter attention span wants to see, stuff blow up. Right. So that I can accept the criticism of why DS9 wasn't, as quick paced or as attention grabbing as maybe, other shows could have been. But
you know what that shows, real quick, Cirroc, and you're totally right about all this. And you know what that shows as a writer? That shows confidence, and it shows not just confidence in their writing ability, but it shows confidence in the franchise, that they're saying, look, we're not worried that we're going to be canceled this season. We're not worried that, like, if we don't blow people away in the very first pilot episode, this show is going to be canceled. This is an existing and ongoing franchise. We don't need to, wow people immediately. We've got a lot of rope. We don't have a time limit on us. We can write something where we take our time, where we introduce characters bit by bit, where we really sink our teeth into things. We don't need we don't need bells and whistles. It shows a lot of confidence and awareness.
And to confirm what you're saying is also the nature of the business at that time is different than the nature of the business now. So at that time, our show was guaranteed 13 episodes, 26 episode seasons. Right. And so when you have the luxury of knowing you're on for 26 episodes, you're going to pace yourself. You're not going to be trying to force it all in so that you don't know when you're going to get fired from week to week, right? And now the studios have less patience and less money to develop something so long. It's, you have maybe 10 episodes to do something. So you have to kind of jam pack in things. You have to keep the attention, and you have a faster pace to work on. So I can understand a lot of those variables would change what we visually see, But one thing that I do think is consistent for me and that I do like about our show is the idea that certain topics are brought up which challenge you to think, and they open up a debate for what is right or what is wrong. And one thing that I do like about Sisko is that he seems to take that approach instantly. He instantly says, no, you will not do this. Yes, this is right. He figures out what side of the coin he wants to be on, and he commits to that. Whether he's right or wrong, it seems to play out, but he's adamant that no, you can't take this person, or you can't kill this person, or Odo, you can't go after these people. He seems to take a very solid approach on what he feels is right.
Right.
And so I like that about him.
And I like this episode. I wish we could explore it more. I feel like we're going to run out of time because the idea that it proposes is a Trill responsible for the actions of the host of the symbiote? Oh gosh, I'm sure I said that wrong.
You said it right, symbiote.
Oh my gosh, I'm doing pretty good
You're
today.
On fire.
I'm on fire. Is the current host responsible for the actions of the previous host? And I was thinking to myself, wouldn't have they wouldn't that species, that civilization, have already determined how to deal with that situation, which they didn't bring up in the show, which kind of bothered me. And I would think the Federation would already know how those laws are dealt with. So in a way, they didn't address how I felt. Honestly, there would have been an answer to this situation because they would have dealt with it in many forms prior. Second of all, as somebody posted on Twitter, and there's a lot of comments on when I said, did anybody have some comments about the show? Most people generally really like it. But why didn't the Federation send in a team of lawyers to defend Dax, especially now because she's part of the Federation? They just were like, oh, well, the commander will handle it. I'm thinking, this would have been a good opportunity.
Well, they did mention Bajoran, like this Bajoran law would take precedence in this.
Correct. But it would have been interesting if a team of Federation officers came on the station when this happened, go, hey, we're here to help protect Dax and make sure. And that would have been interesting because you would have seen another part of the Federation that we don't often get to see, rather than just let Sisko handle it. Although I will say I loved watching Sisko handle it, and his frustration with wanting to protect somebody that he truly loves, and then also his expression of, and here's somebody that I'm getting to know, and you hear how important Curzon was to him. And I was thinking that's going to be Nog someday talking about Sisko. Sisko was this to me, and as well as Jake.
Mm-hmm.
It's neat hearing some of that background, and again within the context of the scene, not two people sitting down at a table and going blah 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 for 5 minutes going, okay, well now we have all the backstory. It's all happening within the moments, and that's what I love about our writers. They make things happen in the moments. They give us this information based on the actions that are happening, that are inspiring what we're hearing.
Right. And that's where I like Sisko's call making, because he makes a call on the spot, and then continues to make calls. There's parts in there where he says it has to prove this way. They're like, what if we find evidence of it the other way? He's like, well, then that evidence is wrong.
Well, the only thing that made me think about that is I was like, is he trying to find the evidence to support his opinion?
Yeah.
Bias.
or make the evidence support his opinion. But he did say, if you find evidence to the contrary of what I want, please give it to me. He begrudgingly said that at the end of the scene.
Yeah,
but I literally went, ooh, he's looking for the evidence to support his opinion.
Of course
he's
trying to save his friend's life.
And we have to give credit to the judge. Was she not on fire? You know, she likes a lot of breaks, though. She likes, so we'll take a 2-hour break. Now we'll take a 1-hour break. I'm like, man, this one a lot of
I've definitely seen her before. She's a great actress, and we've seen her. She's one of those people where you go, I've seen you a bunch of times before,
yes.
you know. But, you know, Aaron, I think above all, I think the point that you raised, that there should have been a precedent already with the Trills, where they say, look, whenever this happens in the past, you know, see this court's, you know, ruling that happened 4 years ago and another one that happened 10 years ago, and here's the law. There should be a precedent where they say it's kind of a sins of the
well,
father,
yeah,
you know.
And that's where I thought it was weird too, because in those cases for extradition, when you're trying to extradite a prisoner, you usually cooperate with the governing body. So normally, I guess the normal procedure is to go to Sisko and the Federation and say,
Right.
you are in possession of this person who needs to be put on trial, and we're asking for da-da-da-da. And it's a procedural thing. It's not like go and kidnap the person on your own when nobody's looking.
But they did answer that in the sense that Sisko said, you know, though, that we're, you know, part of Bajor here, and you know, and then him and Kira working together in that one scene was just spot on. It was awesome. He yielded to her, got behind her, and says, "Oh, I don't know. What do you say, Kira?" And she says, "Oh yeah, nope."
Yeah,
that was really a little.
I like that interplay between them. He yielded to her in that moment, and it was a good play. Like, don't you think that's? I'm not sure. I mean, you know, you can speak for Bajor better than I can, right? So
yeah, and here's one more thing I feel I'm missing again. Again, I said it last week. There was no Jake in this episode. There's no. I would love if Sisko, but there's only so much time, right, in a 45-minute episode. Yeah. If Sisko comes back and he's frustrated because he's going to lose his friend, and then Jake says, "What's up, Dad?" And then he expresses that, and there's something that you say that helps him understand or come back to what he's doing and deals with it a little bit differently, because then the influence of family and how that inspires us to deal with the things outside in our lives in the work. And again, we don't have that family dynamic in this episode. And I'm like, I'm waiting for it because I know it's there, and I know it's an important part of our show. So
you're right that's something that would have happened if they had more time and they weren't pressed. That's something.
Yeah, it's so hard with an ensemble as large as ours.
Yes,
it's so,
exactly.
And we have such a big cast. We have so many supporting actors. It's just hard to get all that information in. But I do agree that it would have added to the story, and it would have kept the family dynamic kind of in your face, you know.
And what it really would have done too, it would have taken both your characters a little bit further, because it would have shown the closeness. It would have shown how sometimes we learn from our kids, and we're able to take that information and bring it to our lives, and it makes us stronger. But
overall, Aaron, I like the idea that they bring up these kinds of discussions, and they bring up these topics. And
absolutely.
I mean, they're current event topics when you talk about things like, you know, should somebody be held accountable for something in the past? Right. That is a topic that's always going to be brought up over and over again.
All right, friends. Well, we got to run. We're just about out of time here. We're going to be doing a roundtable, so maybe we could talk about it a little bit more then. But for Russ Hasledge and Odyssey Radio, for Aron Eisenberg Cirroc Lofton, I'm Ryan T. Husk. Thank you so much for joining us, and always remember the 7th rule.
Keep your ears open.